Things are going to start happening to me now.
You've done all the reading. You're a scholar. You're a professor. You've done all the reading. You've done the intellectual heavy lifting.
More or less, eat shit and die.
You wouldn't know a fact if it begged you all night long.
Want to give the wrong impression, because I am very high.
Ran up behind him with a hatchet. Smash, smash, smash. Yeah.
Care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you. That was...
And welcome everybody to the Libertarian Podcast Review. This is Tyler Yonke. We've got a little Benny Hill going on. Why? Because we're going to talk to some Southern gentleman tonight. You've probably heard of Alan Mosley. We're going to bring him on just a second. But before we do, because he will ruin this, we're going to talk first about Fox and Son coffee. We're going to also talk about the Sniff hole. That's the whole show we're going to talk about with Alan. But Fox and Son, go to foxandson.com. Use the code REVIEW and get 15% off of orders of $25 or more. And without further ado, we're going to bring Alan on. Alan Mosley of It's Too Late. He's got his own show. He's not wearing his suit in his dress up stuff tonight. But welcome. Oh, I got to do the right because he got a studio. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's my night off, so there's no suit tonight. Sorry.
Yeah, tell me about that. How did that come about? Why do you feel constricted wearing a suit and tie and whatnot every time? What's the deal? The story. Nick Gillespie wears all black all the time. Is this you?
Well, the whole thing with the suit and tie thing is that it's the whole authentic late night apparel, right? Like if you're going to get hired by NBC, CBS, whoever to host a late night show, and you walk in there with jeans and a t-shirt out the door, you're not legitimate. Dress for the job you want, right? So I mean, I'm good with it. I'm good with a suit and a tie. I've worn a suit and a tie for years. Having an actual in real life job before becoming a podcaster, which means you're unemployable. But originally it was the gold standard. It was the gold standard with Alan Mosley, and we did 94 episodes. We didn't even quite make it to 100, even though I kept the numbering because I'll be damned if I'm going to start over, right?
Yeah.
And the gold standard had names that people in the libertarian community would know: Jeff Deist, Bob Murphy, Tom Woods, Michael Bolden, Ron Paul, Lou Rockwell, Jeffrey Tucker. I like that I put those names together. Right. All those people were on the show, and we talked about the stuff you would think, right? So
Brad Palumbo?
Sorry, no Palumbo.
Libertarians, my bad.
Yeah, no people from the show based. Sorry. Although I'm not talking shit about Fee because they published my articles. Just the people at Fee.
We'll talk about that. Yeah. So anyway, keep going.
So anyway, the thing is like, there's a hurricane down in Florida. Let's talk about price gouging, right? Because that's what's in the news. Oh, a cop murdered a kid and their dog. Let's talk about police brutality. But I mean, after 94 episodes, we've already talked about every topic that's a hot button libertarian or a libertarian adjacent thing. We probably talked about all of them 2 or 3 times at that point. And it's like, I'm done with it. It's like, look, if you really want to know how I feel about cops, just go to the library. There's me talking about 5-0. So I'm done with that. And then at episode 94, it was okay. The last month or two of the show, we were having more fun, kind of going more Norm Macdonald and less libertarian podcast. Yeah. And I'd say, well, why don't we just do that? Why don't we just go all in on it? And if it's great. If it's terrible, I'll just delete everything and pretend it never happened. And we took a few weeks. I set up the set, redesigned OBS to make it into what it is. We got the music and the graphics and blah, 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 and the segments and the commercial breaks. And it's been that way ever since. And really with each passing year, it's become less podcast and more it's just a late night. If you've ever watched The Tonight Show, you know how It's Too Late is segmented.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. It's a comedy relief, yet with some news in there, so it's good stuff. And I've been trying to move away from that, libertarian base stuff, not based, but
yeah,
centric thing in itself, because it does to somebody when it gets boring. It's also a lot of work, honestly. So you've got to, if you're going to be technically correct, because you're going to be jabbed at by everybody. So it's a little fun to kind of mix the two, at least for me, to mix the two in there. And so that's obviously where we've gone. So you said a few things that I have a lot of curiosity, kind of the back. Wait. Jay Fort says, hello, fellows. I appreciate you joining us tonight. Hello.
Excuse me. He said fellers. Big difference.
Well, back to the.
Yeah. That's right. Howdy, fellers.
Okay. Good catch there. You said a few things there. So did you make a separate studio? Is this a room in your house? What's your actual, and imagine that's a fake background behind you. I don't know. Maybe not. Tell me.
No, this is Columbia, Tennessee. Did you not know that Columbia, Tennessee has skyscrapers and
I don't know. I don't know where you're at. Are you like Clint Russell of the Tennessee?
Yeah, except for I have hair and I'm not a Fed, but yeah.
Okay.
So no, I mean, it's the same. So the thing is, so first of all, you're asking me to kill all the magic of, is this just a room in my house? Like, no, this is, but the thing is though, it's like, that's the beauty of late night is anyone who ever watched Letterman for the bajillion years he was on TV, he's in the basement of the Ed Sullivan Theater. Like, that's not New York City behind him. He is in New York City, but that's not New York City behind him because it's a studio. It's fake. But that's part of the charm though, right? Is that it looks real. Everyone knows it's fake, but you go along with it because you go along with it. It's just what you do. So it's literally a backdrop of, I don't even know what city it is. So big shocker. I actually have no idea what city it is. And I got one of those like little like divider things that like sexy ladies dress behind in cartoons.
Put their stockings over and
yeah, exactly. And I cut out the film so it looks like faux window backdrop type thing.
Okay.
I mean, look, I'm a libertarian podcaster, meaning I have no money, so we got to be creative on the cheap.
And look, this is only this show, right? We got two people watching it. I know more will tune in or at least check out the replay, but it's okay because I am interested in kind of the behind the scenes thing. I mean, that was kind of my thing originally. It was like, we're talking about shows. We'll talk to the people I really want to know about their process. So I'm going to actually try to do some of this interviewing stuff about the process. Yeah. I've asked Mark Claire, he comes on and he's like, look, I'm podcast coaching. I'm like, let's talk about that. He gives me one sentence and moves on. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you don't want to talk about that. No. So I'm actually interested in some of this stuff that you do particularly. So when you say I set up a studio, and I'm telling you to reveal that it's actually a room in, you're next to your wife or whomever you got there, maybe your in-laws, but did you put a separate specified place for this?
Okay, so originally it actually was in a studio. It was in Osborne Studio and Sound. My first producer ever, Blake Osborne. It was in his studio, and that's where the gold standard was. So back then there was no big backdrop and stuff because we were just in a studio. So why decorate it, right?
Yeah.
And then when we decided to do It's Too Late, it's like, okay, well now we have to make it look like a late night show. What can we do? Well, let's get a backdrop. Let's fix everything up. Right now, so the show is actually, it is in my house, sorry. It is in my house. And Jay Forte over there made a reference to Clint doesn't have as many mules as he wish he did. It's because Columbia is the mule capital of the world.
When you say mule, do you mean like I'm going to keister something and sneak it somewhere, or like coyote mule?
No, I mean the animal. I mean the animal that's like a donkey and a horse.
Okay.
Yeah,
or
a mule.
Gotcha. Okay.
Exactly. So a burro, if you will.
I will.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, no, I'm perfectly cool to talk about how we did it in the whole process. So you've got the backdrop, which is literally hung on a bar all the way across. And of course, that the magic of cameras is the camera is cropped in such a way that you can't see the edges. If the camera were to move an inch either way, you would see wall space. We've got the lighting. I use a mirrorless DSLR to try to get as good of a video as I can without spending $4,000 for a camcorder that I can't afford. HDMI in. That's another important thing. So we use OBS, which is a free software.
I was going to ask about that. I assumed you did because you Skyped in when I was a guest, and then you can see the way you transition. Now, do you have like a tweet deck or what is it called? one of those things that you push the buttons and it's got. Okay.
Stream Deck, yeah.
Stream
So there's
Deck,
a
sorry.
Stream Deck that's just one of like 10 pages of buttons for our show. It's one of those things where, like, if someone who's never done this stuff before would say, "Wow, this is a really complicated show," I just click record. But me being OCD, I've designed it in such a way that if I showed it to you once, you'd be able to produce my show, because it's in OBS. It's literally set up top to bottom, left to right, like reading a book. I mean, you can't, you know. But it's so, since it's segmented like late night, you have image main, which is just when you're watching the countdown and you have the thumbnail of the episode and, you know, the music's playing, you're getting ready to tune in. And it goes to static bumper 1 into intro video, which is the music's playing, the crowd's clapping. Dave says, "Ladies and gentlemen, now it's too late," assuming he doesn't fuck up the words.
Did you give him a script?
It's not so much that I gave him a script as it is Blake always did it a certain way, and it's like, well, now that's become the way, right? So now everyone has to do it.
What a dictatorial boss! So you don't give him any kind of like creative leeway.
Well, because you know, the thing is too is about being the producer, because he's known as the #1 producer in late night. He doesn't actually produce anything. I produce the entire show. He just clicks 1 through 10 as we're going through it. But you know, but it's the same thing as, you know, Ed McMahon or Alan Coulter or whoever. Is that he's the sidekick, right? He's the person, because that's, you know, one of the tough things about doing a show like It's Too Late, or any show for that matter, is, you know, Jay Forte is over there and we're going to pretend there's millions of other people and he's the only one talking, but we don't see or hear them. So if we're telling jokes or sharing memes or whatever, Dave is the audience. He's the proxy for the audience, right?
Right.
So it's an important role, even if he's literally just there for me to, you know, if anything goes wrong, if there is a technical glitch, Dave, how could you do this? You know, why are you like this?
And you've got a good dynamic there. So I have Andy, who hasn't been on the show for quite a while because, one, he got a girlfriend and a job. So now he's like,
he's done.
But I met him through one of these group chats and he was ruthless to me. And I'm like, that's the guy. That's what I need. I need someone who chops my legs off at a moment's notice, but also can take it back. And he can do that. So he's perfect if he would ever show up. Kind of the same idea. His problem is he doesn't even push any buttons. At least Dave, at least you're saying he just pushes 1 through 10. And
so we'll actually we can talk about that. So, you know, so you've got your main segments, right? You've got your monologue, and then you've got your bumpers that take you through the commercial break to desk 1. Desk 1 is where you have meme of the week, viewer mail, all that stuff. It's called desk 1 because if you're watching Letterman, he starts the show by doing a monologue, and in the next segment you see him sitting at his desk. Hence,
you know, Letterman's done, right? I mean, we don't really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm using people that I actually would watch and not any of the fruits that are on TV now.
Right.
And so then you have
know Colbert, what he does. Oh yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, in his desk 1, he dances with men in vaccine suits. So that's totally different. But, and then you have desk 2 and 3, which would be your guest interviews, right? That's your celebrity or your musical guest or whatever. And then you just have your outro. What did we learn tonight? You know, thanks for watching, blah, 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 blah. So it's all programmed in OBS. Of course, for people who have ever used OBS, there's scenes and there's sources. Scenes are the main scene. Sources are the microphone's a source, the camera's the source, the meme is a source, the guest is a source. And so I have all of that set up because you know this, because you've been on the show before. I don't like to edit. Editing is gay. It's super time consuming. Who has time for that?
Right.
So, and also the main bulk of the show is in fact live, even if we're plugging in pre-recorded bits. So we don't edit, which means we shoot. So we do it kind of like SNL, where it's a single live take with the commercial like breaks built in and all that stuff. Sometimes dumb shit happens, and that's just in the show. But you know, we're not going to fix it. The real late night shows are all like totally pre-recorded, right? Like all that stuff's recorded in the middle of the day, and then it's on at night or whatever. But you know, so we do the show is generally live, but it may have a pre-recorded segment, a little man on the street or a guest or whatever. But the beauty of OBS, I mean, OBS is a free software, but with a lot of free softwares, it can do anything from just recording you to running a TV show, but that's dependent on you learning it, right? Like there's no instruction manual. It's here's the internet and here's the forums and here's your computer, go to town. And we've spent a long time, kind of crafting us. I saw he's talking about Craig Ferguson over there. By the way, that was my number one. Craig Ferguson was the best.
Yeah. He was best in Drew Carey show. I don't know if you ever saw him in there.
Yeah.
I loved him in there, but yeah, he was good as a late night host as well. Short-lived compared to a lot of
short.
Them.
Yeah. So I base a lot of what I do off of Craig Ferguson. So because his whole shtick was he was deconstructing the platform, but the show was so good that it just became another late night show. Even against his own will. And he did the same thing he had his monologue. And then when he went to Desk One, he did tweets and emails. Well, we do viewer mail. So at very, very similar kind of base setup.
Do you have anything scripted?
Well, I mean, so the bits that are in the monologue. So we're in the monologue. If you're seeing graphics, it had to have been scripted because Dave is not doing the Jamie pull that up from Joe Rogan. Yeah. Like he's not trying to find shit and crop it and resize it in real time. That's all pre-done. But most of the conversation between Dave and I is not scripted. Because I mean, we don't rehearse. There's no trial runs. It's just here's the buttons, 1, 2, 3, go.
And by the way, scripted, you could always tell, almost always. I'm just curious as to like if you're reading anything off. And by the way, this is my problem, and we're getting a lot of inside baseball because I think it's interesting actually, which is, are you looking at the camera? Are you looking at the monitor? It looks like I'm looking at the monitor because I like to look at. I'm looking at myself exclusively. I don't even know who you. No, I'm just kidding. I like to see your reaction. And sometimes on StreamYard, you'll have a situation where I've been. StreamYard. By the way, I used to do a cycling podcast, and this was when did I start this? 2015 or so. So it was recording it, then trying to produce it out, and all this editing, and it took hours out of my day. And I'm just like, it's ridiculous because my audience isn't that. It's not warranted. So when StreamYard came along, suddenly I could do everything, and then I just rip it off and upload that separately, and it's all basically produced with segments. And you obviously are doing the same thing. You're just you've produced little things going, and then you shove it out, and then that's your show that's there produced.
Yeah.
Well, the camera. I just say one thing. So some people, I've been to Josh Smith's show, and he does a thing where like you're talking, so he'll highlight just you. Now the problem I have with that is that shuts everyone else. I can't see and I think maybe it was the same way with Skype. I couldn't see you. Then I can't see your reaction when I'm talking, whatever I'm saying. I don't know if you're liking it, if you're going thumbs down. At least I'm trying to remember about the Skype. What do you think about that?
Well, okay. So the thing is that, so like, again, let's say, for instance, I'm hosting the Tonight Show and you're my guest. Well, if we were doing it in real life and we were on the Tonight Show, you would be able to see me because you're physically there.
Yeah.
But if you were looking at the monitors, you would be seeing what the audience sees. So the way I'm doing it is I'm sharing my desktop. You're seeing my OBS. And if you're on and I have you highlighted, you see you. Now, it is true that you can't see my reactions because you're not physically here, but you are seeing what what would be in the monitors if you were on, NBC you're seeing what the audience sees. That's I could set up a separate webcam, so people could see my face. I've only ever had one guest actually get upset and say, no, I need you to set up a split screen. Otherwise I can't go on living. And I did it just out of respect to them because Walter Block. Walter Block wanted us both on the screen.
Okay.
But it's because that's what people are used to, and so it was unsettling that it wasn't like that. But you know what, Walter Block's never been on a late night show on TV either, so he doesn't know. Right. He's a great guest, though. By the way, he's been on more than once.
Yeah.
He actually gave one of the absolute best answers to is cereal soup and to one of the other questions. Walter Block had a legendary answer. But anyway, going back to the whole like OBS thing is so pre-produced bits. It's, I guess in a sense it's scripted because that stuff was all pre-planned and plugged in before we started the show. But in the other sense is you're thinking of it as minutes, right? So I'm trying to do a 1 hour show that would fit into a 1 hour time slot on TV, and it already has the commercial breaks in it, which means we're shooting for 60 minutes. So if there's Yeah, Jesus. I mean, that turned into, that was one of our most watched episodes recently, so I guess I can't complain, but my God. So, if you're going to do meme of the week and a bonus meme and the viewer mail, if you're going to have a monologue segment where you say, oh, do we have a picture of Henry Kissinger? And it's a skeleton flaming in hell, whatever. All that stuff is pre-done. So in a sense, you could say that's scripted, but from a timing standpoint, it's like, okay, we're going to do a minute. This is a minute. We're going to play this clip of this retard saying this. That's 30 seconds. And I'm kind of, because I mean, look, I fancy myself to be a relatively entertaining person, but I don't do stand-up comedy for a living, So I'm learning on the job as much as anybody, and I spend way more time producing. When I say produce, it's pre-production. I'm pre-producing the show for hours to get ready to do the 1 hour show where it's just once the lights go on, then it's all off the cuff from that point.
So great point, because I'll just do a little insight. I'm now producing Tower Gang. Okay. So that may or may not ruin me, but you got to, pull those guys away a little bit and let me add a little things here and there. So which the point of them doing that is they're tired of like trying to read chats, pull things up, because it takes away from their ability to just riff. And I think that's exactly right. So what you've at least done is you've done, and like me, I can handle this, the chat going on here because it's not out of control. But you get a bigger show, and that's definitely the case. So you've done all the pre-programmed. So you're just, my question is, would it be even easier for you if Dave took over all this and you just sat there and trust, because it doesn't sound like you're a trusting fellow with this, someone else pushing the buttons, which I completely understand. Andy I've been giving him access. He hasn't done it. Probably a good thing, because he wouldn't.
Well, okay. So this is mine and Dave's relationship. So I pre-produce everything, all the buttons, every single button on here, all the, here's the 5 or 6 main jokes in the monologue, and here's the corresponding clip or graphic. Here's the memes, whatever. All that stuff is pre-set up. He does hit the buttons. I type up show notes for him, and I send him the show notes of, the first bit is going to be about, Tyler Yonke. And I'll have a bolded, do we have a picture of Tyler Yonke? And then in parentheses, Tyler 1. And then he'll know that's when to hit that button. He doesn't actually know exactly what the bit's going to be. He has a cue card basically of, this is when to be ready for this is the order, whatever. I saw somebody said over there talking about how Fox and Sons bit is scripted. So that's actually a perfect example of it's scripted in the sense that there will be a Fox and Sons ad, but everything in the ad read is totally made up on the spot. That's it. So that's actually probably a good microcosm for the show, is that we know that there will be a Fox and Sons ad, but it was all done on the spot.
So when I was on your show, you said something. I asked you if you had a sniff hole, and you didn't answer that question.
No.
We should probably just let that go. But that was a good take that you had of calling it the sniff hole.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is, like, so from a functionality standpoint, so I mean, Dave is in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm in Columbia, Tennessee.
Wait, he's not in your closet? I thought he was right.
No. Oh. No, he's not even in my state. So this is the level of nerd that we are, is so I'm setting up everything. I do have a stream deck with the buttons. Like, I could just run the show myself, but that's not any fun. I want to have someone else to yell at and make fun of. So Dave helps me because I want to put my mental bandwidth on the camera. And so that means I need him to take some of the responsibility. So his mental bandwidth is on the buttons. My mental bandwidth is on the audience. And so the way we have that done is we have like a little virtual desktop, like we're using like type VNC, and he's logged in. So it even goes deeper than that.
I was not only about that because you have to in a sense share OBS, and it's I imagine it's set up with you, not him.
Yes. So my OBS is on my primary monitor one. I have a couple different monitors. My primary monitor has OBS so that I can see it, right? So I'm seeing a monitor of what we're doing.
Right.
And then he has multiple monitors set up. In one of his monitors, he has my desktop, and he's logged into type VNC. But then as an extra layer, because he has a stream deck too, and he doesn't want to have to sit here with a mouse and trying to read, because you know how like a virtual desktop is a little bit blurry. He doesn't want to have to fuck around with that. So he actually has desktop macros set up so that when he clicks this button, it clicks this spot on the screen so that he can use his Stream Deck in my OBS.
Gotcha. So you're obviously technologically advanced to the point where you're able to do this. A lot of people aren't. And so the reality is, especially if you're going to do a combo show with multiple people, StreamYard is probably, or Restream or something like that is your best bet. Now, you had said you push things out to Twitch. I did notice, which I thought was fascinating, because StreamYard, as an example, you can pull in from different places, but really the only comments you can show are from either Facebook. I think Twitch does do it, but you do like a Restream bot. What's your situation? What are you doing with all that?
Okay, so we are using Restream, and we're on Facebook.
Because you can do that from OBS out to there through Restream, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So OBS streams to an address, and instead of streaming to any one of those, it's streaming to Restream, and then Restream streams to all the different addresses.
And by the way, StreamYard is not one of those ones that OBS uses, by the way.
Yeah.
So
and by the way, because we can get into the pros and cons of different things in a second, but just to finish the point on Restream is, so we're sending it to Restream. Restream's going to Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. We've done Odyssey, but Odyssey does not currently have, like, it has to be set up as a custom address because Odyssey is not currently like on the list of supported platforms. And Twitch is the big one. And what Restream Bot is doing is mostly for the audience. So for the live audience that's hanging out and talking amongst themselves, as well as saying, Tyler, take your shirt off. They can, if you're on Twitch, you wouldn't be able to see what the people on Facebook are saying, right? But with Restream Bot, it sends the chat to every platform. So that way people on different platforms can communicate. So that way, like, if you're a boomer on Facebook and you've always been on Facebook and you just, by God, I refuse to go to Twitch, you can still hang out with the Twitch people thanks to Restream Bot. That's literally the only function that has, is so that the live audience can see one another. But now, as far as the highlighting text goes, like, we could set that up. Like, I mean, I can set up a feed where you can either have the chat on screen, like some of these gaming streamers do, or we could highlight, chats or whatever. We don't do that because it's too late. It's not a companion cast. It's a late night talk show, and Letterman ain't showing the audience's chat on the screen. And so, sorry, I'm not doing it either.
Sometimes he does talk to that'd be the person on the street type of thing.
Yeah. We only do that once a year at our annual live event. We do a lot of crazy shit there that I wish we could do that every week. Right. But that's just, we only get to do it once a year.
My point though is that's a great thing, because one of the problems, and I am interested in talking about your Twitch audience. Rumble, as an example, seems to get good numbers, and I think they're trying to mess with the algo a little bit. There's like views, and then there's like engagements. So there's a little bit difference in there. Is Twitch messing with those kind of? And by the way, my point on that is, you can't really integrate their chat, and if you're getting a big audience over there, you can't really integrate it through StreamYard or something like that. So OBS would be a perfect way to do that, where you just crop the screen, have a little, from the source, boom, 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 you're good to go. Okay. Your Twitch audience, someone mentioned in here that it was kind of a big deal, and you're saying that's where you're getting a lot of it from. Is it legit audience? Are they having engagement? Is it kind of the algo thing that Rumble is doing? Okay, so you're saying, yeah, Tyler, of course I'm a big deal.
Yeah, well, so the reason why so many people have migrated to Twitch, it's not because I've just mysteriously somehow gotten a bunch of teen to 20 something audience members that are normally hanging out on Twitch. Like, they're going to go watch, some dude play League of Legends and then watch It's Too Late. It's not that at all. It's people who would have watched on a variety of platforms going to Twitch because the quality is just great. I mean, Twitch is just a really well-run platform. The quality is great. The latency, that's the big one. The latency is super low. There's the different platforms have different latency. YouTube is usually a bit quicker than Facebook. Facebook tends to be slow. Some of your kind of B-list platforms, like Float's not around anymore, but Float was notorious for like, if you said knock knock, they would say in chat who's there 35 seconds after you said it. It is very, very long latency. Twitch is super quick. So if it's a high quality stream and it's very quick, which if it's quick, it makes it that much easier to interact, right? There's a lot, a lot fresh engagement that way. And then on top of that, so if you actually have people who are genuinely interested in what you do and they're thinking, hey, I'd like to support this program, but I'm not a Patreon person. I don't want to go sign up for somebody's account or whatever. But I'd like to donate this guy a few dollars. You can do that on Twitch because you can either do it with bits, which is just their currency, or Twitch was I shouldn't say recent, it's a few years ago now. They were bought by Amazon. Now there is a Twitch Prime sub. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you get one free sub called a Twitch Prime sub per month. So let's say you have 50 people watching the show right now, and all 50 of them have Amazon Prime, and they don't go to Twitch. They're not watching video gamers play video games. They don't know anything about it, but they have Amazon Prime. That means they're losing a free sub once a month, that if they sub to you, it costs them nothing and you get the full amount. So when we first did it, like when we first got on the platform, it was, hey guys, check out Twitch. I like video games. You should check out Twitch. It's a cool platform. Oh, by the way, if we get X amount of likes and views, we'll be monetized. We got that relatively quickly. And then it was, hey guys, do you enjoy Twitch? Do you have Amazon Prime? Hit that subscribe button and check mark, use my free Twitch Prime sub. I mean, if you make $100 a month and it's costing the people giving you $100 a month $0 to do it, other than literally 2 mouse clicks, that's about as easy as it's going to get.
Do you advertise to Twitch? In other words, do you say, hey, do you like barely legal chests watching video games? We've got plenty of. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we have actually done gaming streams. We for a while we were doing our Monday night community live streams, which right now they're Monday Night Football because let's just face it, football's king. But we were doing Monday night community streams where we would play a game. Either it was me and Dave playing a game, and it's like, watch these two retards try to play this video game, or we would do like a co-op thing with the audience or whatever. And actually, those were pretty fun. If anything, it was, wow, we're putting way too much, like all of a sudden this is becoming a bigger time sink because the actual show, It's Too Late, is only on for an hour, but our community live streams on Monday nights were becoming like 3, 4, 5 hour marathons. We're like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We're too old.
Yeah. So let's take a look at this real quick. I've got a problem. I went over here today and I clicked on this, and then this happened. Whoops, hang on. I'm looking at the wrong one. This one. And then I went and clicked on this. It's not doing it. Oh, it's popping it up. I'll have to screen do this. Sorry. It does it in a pop-up. So, but this is what it brings up. Talk to me about this.
Oh, I have no idea. You could talk to the Sorcerer Rob about that. Okay.
I'm just wondering why your website's down, or is it me?
It's not down. It's not down. You have to click on the thing.
Oh. Back to safety, advanced. Let me see.
Yeah.
Proceed to unsafe. It says it's unsafe.
He probably has it. Yeah, it is super unsafe. I wouldn't go there. If you click anywhere on that page, you're going to get Chinese gambling sites like Bovada. It's awesome. But I don't know. Maybe you're into sports gambling. I am. So it's cool.
I'm not into sports gambling. I'm not into gaming. I do a lot of stock trading, but that's kind of gambling in a way. But I think it's better.
Yeah. Well, it's only better because you're making educated guesses, right? Like it's not just purely rolling a dice. It's you're using information that you have to make wise investments. Yeah. To me, sports betting is a lot different than like roulette, right? Because you're making educated guesses rather than, I hope I get 21.
So are you tell me about, so the way I used to be a day trader. I worked in the stock market a bunch, but I've transitioned from day trading to what I do now is a kind of a conservative, I'll just say I do covered calls almost all extensively. If anybody knows what that is, basically you buy the stock and then you sell options against it. And I use high volatility stocks that I do this for, and I do great. The point is, can you leverage yourself in betting on sports? Is there any way to, mitigate your losses if it's going to happen?
Yes, to an extent. So, because everybody I shouldn't say everybody, but you think of your most basic bet. Take, say Dallas and Seattle last night. So you could just bet on the money line. Which team's going to win? Well, betting on the money line for the favorite won't win you a lot of money because they're the favorite, right? But betting on the money line against the team that's the underdog will win you a lot more money if you think the underdog will win minus the points. But then there's the point spread. So Dallas won, but they didn't cover. So just FYI. But what my strategy was I would do a whole bunch of parlays. So parlays, for people that aren't familiar with that, is you make several bets and you group them together. So say if it's a 3-leg parlay, there's 3 different bets and you have to get all 3 right. If even one of them is wrong, you lose the parlay. But it's a multiplicative factor to how much your winnings would be. So it's increasing the odds because you're betting on a ton of games. The biggest miss I ever had is I had a 17-leg parlay. I missed it by 1, and it was the final game, and it was college football.
Oh man,
that was a 17-leg parlay that I put like $10 on, and if that last game had gone my way, I would have won $17,000.
That's a good outcome a little bit. Yeah.
So I mean, think of it this way: like if you're the kind of person that's going to go spend $5 or $10 on a scratch off, and a scratch off is, again, there's no skill to it. Well, I mean, unless you're a quadriplegic, there's a little skill. But you have no idea. It's pure RNG, as the kids would say. Whereas with a parlay, it's like, okay, I'm going to say Dallas on the money line. I'm going to say 49ers. Or I'm going to take the Eagles plus the points over the 49ers this weekend. And I'm going to say Michigan beats Iowa, but Iowa covers the spreads. And there's my 3-leg parlay, because it can be different sports. I mean, technically college and NFL are different sports. It can be all whatever the website will allow. My first thing I say to people is only bet in the things you know. Like don't throw money on a fight because you think the fighter's cool. You're the biggest idiot in the world if you do that. Right. In fact, that's what Vegas is counting on, right? They just want all that action. Right. But bet in parlays. If you bet in larger parlays, you can bet very small amounts of money and win a lot should you win. And if you lose, it's like, oh no, I lost $5. It's the end of the world. Gotcha. What you would never see me do, you would never see me betting many hundreds or thousands of dollars on individual outcomes, no matter how sure I am. I never did that. I would bet on, maybe 5 or 6 games per week and put a very modest sum, like I'm talking like $20 on a game. And the winnings I would win from that would be enough to fuel the parlays. It'd be like, oh, I won $40 last week in over 20 games. I won $40, big spender here. But I would take that $40 and be like, here's a $5 parlay of only college games. Here's a $5 parlay of NFL games. Here's another $5 parlay of my top few picks of both college and pro put together. And I would mix and match them like that. So as far as the reason I bring up the parlays is talking about like hedging your bets. An example of hedging your bets, and this is something I failed to do because I was literally at dinner with my girlfriend, so it's really her fault if you think about it, is if you have a 17-leg parlay and you are 16-0 with 1 game remaining, the smart thing to do would be, if they allow you to just cash it in at a significantly reduced sum, but you don't take that last game, you do it because it's money in the bank, right? It's like a deal. It's like deal or no deal. You're playing deal or no deal. Or you bet against yourself. So you'd be like, well, if I'm going to win 10 grand, if I win this parlay, then I'll bet like $1,000 on that last game going against me.
Gotcha. By the way, it's not far different than trading, stock trading and day trading and whatnot, which is one, do you keep track of all these wins and losses type of thing? And then knowing when to get out is just the same with dating or sex. Knowing when to get out is often better than, staying in for the long haul, which you get, next thing you know, you got a child on the way and you didn't even know this lady. Yeah. But I mean, like some of the harder things I've done with trading was pulling the trigger for a win that it could have gone up. Sometimes people don't pull them on the downside either, right? You've got to take those losses and know when to get out. Like you said, make that bet against yourself because the worst thing you could do is be this guy. Have you heard of the show called Better Off Dead? It's with this guy named Toad. He's a degenerate gambler. That's what you want to protect against, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So, By the way, we did our monthly sports ball episode on It's Too Late this week, and we were talking about that Josh Giddey guy, the guard for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's a 21-year-old dude from Australia that got drafted to the NBA, and he's currently being investigated for some improper contact with a minor, a girl who was allegedly 17. But I was actually thinking about you when we wrote this little bit down, which was because they don't know if it happened in California or Oklahoma, but in Oklahoma, the age of consent is 16. But my statement was, and I'm sure the lawyer in the room would appreciate it, but also the man and the father in the room is this is my advice to the young fellas out there. If you're having to Google what the age of consent is in your state, she's too young.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't even worry about what the age is. She's too young.
By the way, I wanted to talk about, my wife brought this talk to me today, and I'm like, I've got to remember to talk to Alan about this. And I totally blew my mind. I forgot about it until just now. So here it is.
Okay, perfect.
She loves crime podcasts. So she's, of course, listening to one called Love and Murder. And she's, as she always says, it's like, it's always an affair. And next thing you know, okay. So it's this guy, he's full on adult. He's messing around with this 15-year-old girl. Obviously a problem. Probably not age of consent in their state. Parents.
Probably.
Yeah. He's already a one-time violator. So he, whatever. But they stay in contact privately because she's 15 and crazy. So next thing you know, she's 17. He, of course, lives with his mom. Shocker there. Everything's fallen into place as you would write it from an easy perspective. So she goes over to his house. His mom's in the way. So they kill her. Okay. They kill his mom. Now he's got an ankle monitor on. He doesn't take the monitor off, and they hightail it to Mexico. Well, you're able to find him because he's got an ankle monitor on. So the police go down there. I guess they coordinate with the federales and they pick him up. Now they're charging them both with murder, obviously, and then him with additional things of sex with a minor. They charge her with murder, but they're going to take her to court and charge her as an adult. She's 17. She's murdering. We're going to charge you as an adult. And this guy, he brings this up. Now he's dumb enough to leave the ankle bracelet on. And he goes, hang on a second. She's too young for me to have sex with consensually at 17, but she's old enough to be charged as an adult for murder. Why? These don't work together. And I'm like, he's got a good point. Alan, what do you think?
Yeah, so I agree with that. I mean, I can understand that if these were totally separate incidents involving different people, then it's not so much of a controversy. But the fact that it's all a part of the same circumstances, then yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too. That does remind me. I'm not going to name the names of the people that are involved, but someone I know very well had an in-law who their in-law was a part of a nationwide manhunt. This was 4 years ago now, I think. Like the type of thing where it's on Dateline NBC and all this kind of crap, where it's the classic tale of homely older school teacher who's a male gets seduced. We're really gonna put some weight on that word by this whatever 16-year-old girl who she's got a troubled family life and they abuse her and she's been raped by her uncles and whatever, and so she runs to him for support / protection, and then one thing leads to another and she's sucking his dick too, right? So they do the same thing. They didn't kill his wife, so at least she's got that going for her.
Well, this was this guy's mom.
Or they didn't kill his wife, but they do flee. Like they run away, since they're now apparently in love. Not only is he protecting her from her abusive family, but he's now with her. So they go across the country. They wind up somewhere near the West Coast, and then they make a break for it down towards Mexico. And they very nearly got there. But what ends up happening is that so he the biggest thing that he, like the first charge, and you know a whole lot more about this than me, is the trafficking of her across state lines, right? Like that's the first thing, is he's taking an unsupervised minor that's not his guardianship or whatever across state lines, which is like, so that was the first one. And then the next one is obviously the presumption that there was sexual contact, which my understanding of it is that, so if if she's actually willing, I'm not getting into age of consent, but I'm saying if she's a willing party to the whole fleeing the state part of things and whatever, and then he says, "Oh, I never touched her." How do they prove that he touched her at that point? Like, it's almost that they're just assuming that there was a sexual affair.
Yeah. And by the way, this is part and parcel for the DAs to do, and it could be Fed, right? Because it's across state lines.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, which is you overcharge them, and then you hope that they make a plea deal. And that's typical. I mean, you see this all the time, like one is a resisting arrest, and it's like, okay, but what was the underlying charge? And then, it's just additional things that they're able to glom onto.
So the final bit of drama with his thing. So, big shocker. He originally was going to court, and he had
Is this the basketball guy or the?
No, this is the in-law. The basketball guy apparently is not going to get in any trouble.
Well,
but
I don't want to get off of that one yet, like he was getting off, which is I saw the video of her like on TikTok, and it's like at some point you do have to say, yeah, but did you see what she was wearing? Did you see the moves?
Well, okay, look, I know this is going to sound super bad for the people who think everyone should go in a wood chipper, but he's 21. He's not like he's not LeBron James at like 38 or 40. He's 21.
Yeah.
And he's from a different culture, so who knows? Maybe they rape.
What
kids
culture is that?
Australia. He's Australian.
Oh, didgeridoo, my man, or something.
Yeah. So he's 21. She's presumably a high school junior, which would be 17, I guess, and 18's a high school senior. So I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm just saying we've heard way worse than that in the annals of statutory.
I've had way worse than that.
Yeah, there you go.
I went to grad school in Colorado, and I'm working because I'm going to school. I'm working, and I was working at a yogurt place, serving yogurt across the street from a sorority. Let me tell you, that's the way to go. Because at the time, they all wanted their fat-free yogurt, whatever. This girl comes in, and I'm like, okay, another sorority girl, and she's flirting with me. And then she comes in, like she's going to her high school prom, or she was literally like 16 and did not look at. Now, luckily, nothing happened. But I was shocked. Am I supposed to get ID? I was young.
Yeah. Yeah. So the final bullet point of the in-law thing is that so they go to court, and it ends up being a whole thing of he had a lawyer, and then the lawyer, I don't know. I guess lawyers can just leave the case or whatever if they decide that they're done. But she ends up being committed. Like, she's insane. I know it's super shocking to hear that the girl's nuts.
I was just gonna say, but you said girl. I
exactly.
That was already
so. But she's clinically nuts as opposed to just being a woman. Lawyers are gay like that. But she's the only key witness that the prosecution has against the dude is the girl. But the girl has been declared mentally unfit. So what is the case? So they still have the taking her over state lines, and that's not a small thing, but they really don't have anything else, right? Because
so you look, there's a and then some depends on what state they'll have. As an example, you often have it difficult for a DA to come in and people say press charges. You don't get to press charges. You're not the district attorney. The DA does this. Okay, so shut up with your thing. You can press the issue with the DA, and then they may or may not take it up. The point is, the DA comes in and they're going to prosecute. If they don't have a witness, or the witness, that's why you have the old mob story. Yeah, you kill the witness. Now they're not there. But I will say they do have some like domestic violence, some of these other rape issues where they will take the case and they will not necessarily force the person to testify, because that's not going to work. But they will kind of like hearsay statements that they're allowed to do for these situations. So, which I think is shitty. So if the person, but their idea is, oh, this person's under duress, you're going to force them to testify. They're not going to testify for their own safety. Okay, well then that's the way it is. But that is probably, so in this case, one, they would have to deem whether she's competent or not. I don't know if you watched our show on Miss Shabusiness, but she was... I don't know. Do you know that story at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Same. I mean, her idea. She pled guilty, but then they had to go through sentencing and determine whether she was even competent to say that or not. So, the whole competence, and she was clearly out of her mind, but it was best to say that she was competent so you can put her down. That may be the situation with this one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go back to the young. Okay.
Yeah.
Finish.
So the moral of the story here is just don't fuck kids. And OBS is the best streaming software for podcasters. And if you have huge winnings on a parlay, bet against yourself on the last leg. That's it.
I couldn't agree more. Let me. I want to play. Let's see here if I can find a little clip I wanted to play for you, Mr. Mosley.
Okay.
What do you got coming up? Anything exciting coming up here in the future?
Well, we're in the holiday season, so we do our Christmas episodes at this time of year, which has kind of become an annual thing where we've changed all the graphics and the bumpers to be holiday friendly. We'll sing some songs, and we've got a musical guest coming up. So Scott Horton was our Thanksgiving guest, and Tom Woods is our Christmas episode guest.
Oh, good. So I did get Tom to finally react to me. I got help from Pete Quinones. Tom is going to come on my show. I did this horrendous 8-episode. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Yeah. I saw it. Yeah.
Okay. Which I really actually enjoyed. So if no one else watched it, whatever, I ended up doing a lot of work. So my thing with Tom is going to talk to him about, cause he's going to come on here. You just have to make time, talk to him about some of these seminal, interviews. And I will go back, cause Alan, I didn't feature yours on there. On the review, but I will go back and maybe I'll talk to him about, maybe I'll play some clips now that we've got this. So
yeah, he'll probably curse at me. See, Tom Woods is a funny guy because he's he's kind of mellowed a little bit in recent years, but for a long time he was generally known as the guy that he's a square, right? He's a straight shooter. He never swears. He doesn't drink. He's just this really affable, nice guy. No, my friends, I have multiple video clips of him calling me a bastard and a son of a bitch. And obviously that's just a gold mine for me as far as my advertising goes.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. So I've pulled the best out of Tom Woods. I can confidently say by getting him to swear. It's mostly about my retarded food questions. The last time he was on, I asked him if you have 2 lasagnas and you stack one lasagna on top of the other, is it still 2 lasagnas or is it now just a single lasagna? This guy goes into a fucking 15-minute rant about the Italian language and how actually it's this. And of course I hit him with the X button and say, nobody wants to hear that retarded crap anymore, Tom. I think he called me a son of a bitch. I don't remember.
Right. So I look at my intro, I have him saying, I think the S shit. And I have another clip of him, and it's on one of my other intros where he says, bitch. And I had that, and I was going to look and see if I could find the comment here, but I just won't play it. Okay, let's just go to this, because this to me was fascinating. I don't know if you probably saw this.
I have seen this, yeah.
Okay, so evidently this is a mermaid in some sort of thing. I don't know how long she'd been swimming down there, but let's... something. Oh, there's a big fish. She has trouble. She pulls off. Oh, okay. Anything you want to say about this? I think there's the whole thing about black mermaids. I think this kind of answers that question, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I actually hadn't seen that. The one I saw was the one where the mermaid's farting and everyone can see the bubbles coming out.
Okay, well, what do you think of this one now?
That it's so satisfying when things are exactly how you think they would be.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's my entire review. It's so satisfying when things are exactly how you think they would be.
Okay. Now, what about this one? This is a little different one. I don't know if you've seen this one. Even watching this disturbs me. So it's an airplane.
Everybody.
She said sorry. She pulls it and just blows out on the floor.
I don't give up. No, you. I gotta go pee. I don't give up. You never own it. Let me pass.
This poor little boy next to us. Holy.
Okay. Any comments about that? Evidently, I never listened to it. This is the first time I've listened to it. I've seen it a few times.
Yeah.
I thought she had taken a Duke there, but evidently she just was going pee.
That was a really fast pee for someone who needed to pee so bad they couldn't hold it.
I tend to think, very good point. I tend to think that she didn't actually go. She was threatening. She was. It's like holding a gun in someone's face. This might be even worse. Yeah. What do you think about that? How would you feel if some unattractive, larger lady like that just used her vagina as a weapon?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we can't. I mean, this is a society, so we clearly can't have that. I mean, was the plane actually in the air, or are they sitting on the tarmac? That's a huge difference. I mean, if they're sitting on the tarmac, she has to be thrown from the door onto the tarmac. If they're actually in the air, then she has to be wrestled to the ground and, I mean, A, branded, and B, held in confinement until they get to an airport.
Right.
The fact that she said sorry, you guys, but then reacted the way she reacted when there was, public protest to what she was doing, tells me that I don't think she actually was very sorry.
Good point. Okay, so Fort wants to show the burger. Have you seen my edit of this by any chance? It got almost 200,000 views on Twitter. I'm not gonna. Let me see if I can find this. Maybe I'll do that. The not real chick.
Yeah. The ideal woman. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw my edit of that one.
No, I don't think so.
What do you mean ideal woman? Is she the ideal woman? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no. She's number 2 now. Now I've got a clip of some Korean chick that's the new ideal woman.
Why is she the ideal woman?
Look, she is the poster child for I can fix her.
Okay.
That's a whole running gag we have on the show of every single time I highlight, and here's news from Bumblefuck, Wisconsin, where this crazy bitch did this thing. If she's hot, it's I can fix her.
Gotcha. Okay.
Look, it's going to be easier for me to fix the girl who's seeing the lizard people on the airplane than it's going to be for me to fix like a head half shaven commie girl from college.
True. Okay. Let me see if I could play this here. I did this. Okay. Sorry everyone. It was asked for, so I have to play it now.
I'm getting the off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not. I'm not going to.
Kick that bitch off the plane!
Okay, that was. As Magoo says, I'm playing my greatest hits. That's true. That one blew up on Twitter. I must say. I had seen this and I'm like, and I was starting to text Andy. I'm like, I've got to have something where she looks back and it's like Santa Claus. It was something I was trying to figure out what it was, and what do you need to have? And then I go on this group chat I'm in, and Cole, Tower Gang Cole or Fat Dave, he goes something about the Burger King guy, and I'm like, oh my god, I'd already had it ready to go. I used DaVinci Resolve for my editing stuff, and I just grabbed that, threw it in there, posted it up, and then Dickie tried to post something, and he was too late, and his wasn't as good. So sometimes it's all just the timing, and you need like your Dave guy. You got to have someone to give you an inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beautiful thing. Like with Dave, I mean, sometimes, every now and then we'll have a little technical glitch, but of course I can always say it's Dave's fault, and that's part of the shtick. But sometimes we don't. It's not actually a technical glitch. It's just it's God forbid I say slightly pre-planned, because it's part of the shtick. You have to keep your recurring things going every now and then, because when you have new people come to the show that haven't seen it before, they're gonna step in and say, what the fuck did I just watch? So you have to have those, like, you have to revisit your shtick every now and then.
Exactly. Did you see that Elon Musk, the go fuck yourself thing?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you see the edit with you want to be a millionaire or the millionaire video?
Yeah.
Show?
Uh-huh.
I can't find it right now, so we're not going to really go into it. I'm going to play one more for you. We're going to get a little bit more serious here. So we'll just do one more. I could play the Elon go fuck yourself one, but I think we're going to skip that. We're going to show this other one here of Ben Shapiro. This has been interesting to me lately, and we don't need to get to politics, but the Blaze put up a thing of Dave Smith interviewing, I think it was Tucker Carlson, and they called him an interviewer. Okay. And then and Dave Smith has been on specifically with Glenn Beck multiple times. I think at least 3, and I've ripped them all down and posted them up. Just the 2 of them in an interview together, like on a show. 30 minutes for one, 45 for another. Another one was like 20 minutes. And so Glenn Beck's obviously the biggest thing at that network, and Dave Smith's been on there. They call him an interviewer. Now, this is Ben Shapiro. He goes on here and he tends to, now Dave Smith has been on Rogan, 7, 8 times.
Yeah. A bunch,
what are the odds that Ben Shapiro doesn't know who Dave Smith is?
Relatively none. He knows who Dave Smith is.
All right. Good point. So let's take a listen.
There are people on the right who are simultaneously doing much the same thing. There's like a group on the libertarian right who sound very much like Noam Chomsky on the left, who sound very much like Bernie Sanders on foreign policy.
By the way, I'll just say he's absolutely right. But there's also people like Ben Shapiro who sound just like the college kids, all woke and concerned about your feelings and your safe spaces right now, currently. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, well, Ben Shapiro is perfectly in league with the kind of corporate Republican that you see like getting booed every time they go out in public. If they're outside of their own constituency, they're being booed at all like public events and sporting events and stuff. And Ben Shapiro is in lockstep with them, and he doesn't understand why conservatism is failing. He doesn't grasp it at all.
A great point. Okay, let's keep going.
I don't know what to make of that other than they're just wrong. So Tucker Carlson yesterday, he did a show with a comedian, and this comedian, I guess, is a libertarian. And Tucker Carlson was talking with this guy, and this guy started ripping into William F. Buckley, and it led to this kind of odd exchange.
Whatever this atrophy in like the intelligence of the American people, I think it's accelerating. I mean, it's look, and again, just like you said, I'll disclaimer as well. I'm talking about people who I don't necessarily like. Like, I view Bill Buckley as one of like the great villains of the 20th century. I think he ruined.
I couldn't agree more.
Yes, but he was clearly also CIA, by the way, but he was also a very intelligent guy and witty, and was not speaking down to his audience. And like
again, Tucker's a super talented broadcaster, and I think Tucker's a smart guy. I'm just wondering why. Like, I would love for him to explicate why he thinks Bill Buckley was one of the worst forces of the 20th century. Like, that'd be good to know. I mean, Bill Buckley was the most prominent conservative of the 20th century. Now, Tucker may not like National Review right now. He certainly liked writing for them back in the 90s sometimes, but he may not like them right now. That's fine. He doesn't have to agree with the editors over at National Review. I'm just wondering why Buckley. There are people on the right.
Okay, so my question right away is, I see this, and I know Ben's he's got a law degree, but I don't know if he's ever really practiced. It's interesting that he says about Buckley, I would like to know why he thinks this, but he doesn't put forth why Buckley is deserved of accolades or being the good guy. You know, basically Tucker's saying he's the bad guy. He just says he's a good guy because he's a conservative. It's like a declarative statement. You don't say because and then use any facts. I'm a little frustrated with that. Anyway, I'm just curious to your take on this.
Well, okay. So in the very beginning of that video where he says that, so he equates like the libertarian right / the things that are being discussed in this interview between Dave and Tucker Carlson, he equates those with Noam Chomsky and Bernie Sanders, which Bernie Sanders has sold out so many times. I'm not sure his name it belongs in that. And Noam Chomsky is old as shit, and he's been wrong on some things too. But let's think of old Noam Chomsky. Old as in before now, not old. Right. But okay, so that's fine. You're equating these things together because you know your red meat conservative base is going to say, "Rawr, that means they're bad. Those guys are on the left." But he also makes the statement immediately after that of, "Well, I don't really know what they're getting at other than to say they're just wrong." Like, okay, so what you're saying is that if you just purely, like, you couldn't steel man it. Ben Shapiro is openly admitting that he cannot steel man the position that Dave Smith has. But Ben Shapiro would also be the kind of person who would sit on his conservative neocon high horse by saying, well, conservatives are smarter than liberals because we can explain the liberal position. We just know it's wrong, but the liberals don't even understand us. What the fuck did he just say? He said the same thing.
Here, let me pull this up here because remember about you just said that but yes, one of my albums is Toad Left because he's always leaving a group chat. Ben Shapiro talks about the vaccine. In other words, get the vaccine, dopes. That's exactly what Noam Chomsky was saying as well. Okay, he was on that. So it blows my mind. Like, you think Dave Smith or Ben Shapiro just came out and was about Malay and was talking good about him. Great, but you only like him, Ben, because he got elected, and you should like him. But you don't understand that he's an anarcho-capitalist at heart, and he's going to agree with maybe Chomsky on a few little items here and there. But it doesn't mean that he takes everything in, right? Ben Shapiro wants this vaccine, so did Chomsky. Therefore, what? They're lockstep with each other, right?
Yeah, so if I were doing the exact same monologue Ben just did, I would say that, well, you have Ben Shapiro and others on the neocon right who are in lockstep with people like Noam Chomsky and Bernie Sanders on forced vaccinations of the unwilling and having them deplatformed and fired from their jobs. Like, right. It's literally the exact same thing. It's not even a loose analogy.
It's completely right. And I'm so tired of that. I involved myself in that much of my life when I was right wing and GOP. I said those things about Jimmy Carter because he said things about the Palestinians should have rights, and I'm like, anti-Semitic, and it's an easy thing because then you don't have to argue about anything, right? It's just like, he's a Nazi equivalent, and therefore I don't have to listen to anything he says.
Oh, what do you? Speaking of that, I mean, goodness knows that resolutions in Congress mean absolutely nothing at all. But what do you think about that one recently, where part of the platform was criticizing Israel as anti-Semitic, and the only no vote was Thomas Massie?
Once again, Massie is proving to be a guy of principle, which he's such an outlier. I mean, everyone else is not even close. His stance, I thought it was great because, it's the most ridiculous thing. It's the only country that you can say, I don't agree with them, and you are suddenly a Nazi. It's Or, well, you know what? I shouldn't say that, because before you'd say, look, I don't think we should send our money over to Ukraine, and people are like, oh, what are you, Putin puppet? Okay. Well, okay. At least
and speaking of that, like I'm not like naming any names, but I know that there are people that call themselves like post-libertarians or post-conservatives or flat out they just think they're fascists, who think that, well, Thomas Massie sitting on principle is actually a bad thing because he's going to be sitting on principle all the way to the the boxcars. I get what they're saying. It's not that I don't understand their argument. What I would counter with is that, but doesn't somebody have to be leading by example? Like you have to at least have one person in the entire stratosphere that is a beacon of what you should aspire to, even if that's not what you think is the right thing for you to do right now. So, and Massey's the only one. I mean, who else is there? Who else is there in the actual mainstream conservatism that is on his level? Can you name one?
No, you cannot. And Talib? No, I'm just kidding. Maybe.
It's better on some things. I mean,
but by the way, the post-libertarian thing cracks me up because they're all almost, trad con or Catholic con or whatever it is, trad cath type of thing, right? And you're telling me that if push came to shove and you were going to be, burned at the stake for, you believe in God and people, and that's the issue, that you would feel like that you're supposed to stand up for this or eternal damnation, you wouldn't be sacrificed for that. Now it's suddenly, oh, the boxcar, really? You big pussy. You're going to be in the boxcar for standing up for your principles, even though that's your religion. So those don't really work for me. And I get and I'm totally agreeing with what you're saying there. So,
well, it's like, so you have like rock, paper, scissors, right? So imagine the triangle of, you have like capital L libertarian, like they are politically active, but they're libertarians, i.e. they're losers and they'll never win anything. And those people would not like Thomas Massie because he's a sellout, right? Because he'll use the word libertarian when it suits him, but the fact that he could even get elected means that he's not going to stand on principle. Like, oh, he actually acquiesced and voted for something, therefore he's not one of us. And then Massie, the traditional conservative, would say, well, I'm going to stand on principle, and I actually have to win elections in order to have a vote at all. So I'm not listening to your bullshit. And then the other plank of the trifecta is, so this post-libertarian cath trad person would say that, well, what Massie is saying, that they're going to stand on his principles all the way to the boxcar. He's not willing to fight against the left the way that they're going to fight with him. So that means that politics isn't working. We got to figure out other ways to do things, which then comes back around. But then they'll criticize the LP people for saying that, well, look, you're doing things outside of the mainstream, but you'll never get elected. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Right. Then all of you, yeah.
And so what do you say about that with Milei getting elected as an ANCAP? I know it's Argentina, but this post-libertarian thing was like, look, it's all about power. Okay, it's all about power. It's all about elections. Let's go get a nice guy in Texas elected to a local thing. Oops, that didn't work. But it's all about power. Now Milei gets elected. Does that mean that? Can you now say he's living in Ancapistan in Argentina? I mean, isn't that what you wanted? Is this a problem now? I don't know. Is it?
Well, because there's
I'm open to all this, by the way. I don't really give a shit. But
which, by the way, I just want to say as a quick aside before talking about Milei is the fact that you said, we're going to get serious for a second. We're going to talk, not to get too deep into politics. So that's a beautiful thing. I love talking about politics in a situation like this, precisely because I've 90% removed it from It's Too Late. It's not that I don't still enjoy like I still write stuff and it's politically motivated. I just don't do it on It's Too Late because it's boring and worthless. But I do still love it. But anyway, about Milei is there's two sides to the coin. On the one side it's that, don't, take a win, right? Like, don't turn a victory into a defeat by being said, oh, he's not going to be able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. Oh, he's not a real whatever. Oh, that's just Argentina. That's not here. I do definitely think that it shows that. So I mean, it's proof of concept, right? Like, I'm not saying that what happened in Argentina is going to happen in the United States, like in 2024 or anything. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you can have because Argentina, like, let's be fair, they're way worse off than we are. For all the complaints we might have about America, where do you want to go live? You don't want to go live in Argentina. Nope. Like, let's be real. So they have it way worse off than us. And you actually see a mass of people reach the breaking point where they say, okay, the next line is we start dragging people out of their houses and cutting their throats. Before we try that, let's try electing somebody different. So I'm like, hey, cool, let's go for that.
And in a place that was it's very socialist, elections. And I'm also like, it's Argentina. Let's give it a shot. What's it going to hurt me?
By the way, I would also point out as totally, I mean, I shouldn't say totally, off of the political angle of it is he's also been very critical of the Pope. I mean, the Pope is a fucking commie right now.
Right.
They probably have been commies for a while, but the Pope is a commie, and he was openly critical of the Pope in a country that is overwhelmingly traditional Catholic, and he still got elected. So that tells you that there's a lot of angles to this of people that are upset with the status quo.
Right. My brother-in-law is from Argentina, and he was just he lived there till he was like 10 or 11, 12, something like that. He just went back because his parents are down there. And so I was just talking to him over Thanksgiving, and very interesting conversations with people in the cab. He's talking about the finances, the blue market, they call it. And Tucker Carlson had kind of mentioned that. Okay.
I'm laughing because Magoo's autism needs to be addressed. So it is plugged in. Otherwise, I'm actually communicating telepathically with Tyler right now. So the cable's right here. It goes in. It goes inside here. Yeah. I know that's a weird concept for you, Magoo, but it goes in.
Tell me about your, it's a Shure mic. What's your mic stand? What kind of mic stand is that?
I mean, I don't even know what brand it is. But it's just a boom arm. Yeah. It's just a boom arm. It's a Shure SM7B. There's the boom arm. The cable comes out the other end of the boom arm, and it's in the,
I have a similar, I don't know. I'm going to do a thing behind the scenes one day where I just film like my little studio thing, what I do, my process. I think that'd be kind of interesting. I don't know.
We actually talked about that. Talked about that once, doing a like how it's made version of It's Too Late, but we never did it because I'm stuck in between. I think it would genuinely be cool. People could see, wow, they put a lot into the show. Versus B, maybe people actually just don't give a shit, and I should stop complaining.
No, I personally, I enjoy those kind of things. I watch a lot of, like you're talking about, I've learned OBS as a matter of fact, years ago, and I was visiting it this last week. So all the tech stuff, I've been into all that, and it's interesting to me. And by the way, those videos get views. So why not do it? Let's talk real quick, and then we'll head out here. I know it's been a little over an hour, but people are still a little giggling.
I don't know. What's the score of the game? Somebody. Washington,
know.
Oregon.
But let me say this. You talked about writing. You talked about some of the. You're involved with the 10th Amendment Center as well? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I am involved with the 10th Amendment Center. So I would say that I work with the 10th Amendment Center. I think Bolden would say he is a former contractor, no longer associated. No, I'm just kidding. Bolden is such a nice guy. I love working with the 10th Amendment Center because they're just great people. And by the way, that's really, I mentioned that because that's something that one of the reasons why I don't do a libertarian podcast anymore. It's not that I haven't changed. I'm still me with the same views and principles that I've always had. But I think a couple of things are really important. I don't think I can tell you what the libertarian position is on something. I'm not the grand wizard of the KK libertarian. So I can't tell you what is and what isn't. But what I think I can do is I can just do a good show. And if it's a good show and you walk away thinking, hey, that's a pretty good show, then you might also think, hey, it's cool that a libertarian does a good show, as opposed to I'm telling you what to think. Right. And so yeah, maybe I will rethink the how it's made thing. But where was I? What was your last question?
Well, I'm also interested about the 10th Amendment Center.
So the 10th Amendment Center. So 10th Amendment Center, which has been around, I think they just had their 17-year anniversary because Bolden's been running this thing for almost 20 years, almost the whole time out of his apartment in LA, and he recently moved to Irvine. But he's running it out of his apartment. Of course, his right-hand man, Mike Maharry, is one of my best friends in the world, does sports ball with me, comes to the live events. He's the National Communications Director, which, by the way, everyone just makes up a title. Bolden says, think of a title that would be cool, and I'll endorse it if anyone ever asks. So, of course, Mike is obviously the National Communications Director. I'm a database admin and policy researcher, which is a really complicated way of when Bolden says, hey, can you type this really quick? I say, yes, sir. But I've written articles that have been published by TAC. I do bill reports. I work on some of the stuff on their site, even though I know jack shit about WordPress. It's mostly just Bolden saying, do this so that I don't have to. And I say, yes, sir. Bolden is a workhorse, by the way. I mean, this is a guy who works 70 hours a week, every week. And like clockwork. He's not a micromanager in the sense of trying to tell you or me what to do. He micromanages himself. He's one of these guys that has a daily planner planned down to every 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to put 10 minutes on this. I'm going to put 50 minutes on this. But it's, his efficiency is out of this world. I have many times said, look, if I had a magic wand, the first thing I would do when I wave it is I would give the 10th Amendment Center the Cato Institute's budget. And I would give Cato Institute the 10th Amendment Center's budget. I would do that today. And because the 10th Amendment Center puts out at least as much, if not more content that's way better, that's actually grounded in principle. Even if you're one of these Constitution, Lysander Spooner fucking retards, you know what? The guys who run the 10th Amendment Center know a whole lot more about that than you.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I've been on a kick lately about the 14th Amendment. I know you're the 10th Amendment Center, but there is some overlay, which is all the incorporation problems. Yeah. And I've said, if you want divorce in this country, which, it's states separating from each other, if we just repeal the 14th Amendment and all the incorporation, you have soft divorce. Essentially, you're putting all the rights back to the states. So I'm going to be doing something about that. I don't know. I have a book over here. It's Raoul Berger's Government by Judiciary. It's all about the 14th Amendment. It's fascinating.
So a couple of the topics that they've talked about the most at TAC they do talk about incorporation a lot, of course, obviously. They talk about something that'd probably be more in your wheelhouse. What's the what is it? Memorandums of understanding, the things where all the different police forces are contractually with the feds for profit sharing. I call it profit sharing, which is the nice civil asset forfeiture. Yeah. And so basically that's how the feds buy off your local police to get them to enforce things.
Yep.
And so you want to what kills me is that we love making the joke of, who needs neocons and Democrats when you have libertarians like these? So you'll have libertarians that'll constantly bash Bolden or Maharry or me or the 10th Amendment Center for they're not even necessarily taking a stand. It's just informational stuff. Like, this is the 10th Amendment. This is nullification. This is how this is real life ways that this has worked. So it's not even like fairy tale land. We're talking about, look, this is what states can do. This is what some states have done. And they'll bash it. And all of their bashing will always come down to, well, Lysander Spooner has this one quote in this one article that's taken way out of context, which means the Constitution's bad, you guys. So first of all, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. And second of all, I thought we were all about incremental steps towards liberty in our lifetimes. Like, I thought that was kind of the thing, because we understand that if we've lived like 200 years under tyranny, it's probably not going to be fixed in 2 months. The 10th Amendment Center preaches this kind of stuff literally every day, actually has written legislation, actually has worked with state level, key state, because of course we're neo-Confederates. So worked at the state level to try to get things passed, which ironically enough, it's so interesting how different states are different on different issues, right? Like California is a leftist shithole, but I mean, they were great on weed way before anyone else was good on weed. When the feds actually were still brave enough to raid people, California was pushing it.
Well, as a matter of fact, if you go back through the Commerce Clause and the where it stands now, Raich v. California, or Raich, I think was one, that is a case that came out, a weed case that helped kind of push back against some of the Commerce Clause situation. So yes, of course. Hang on. Jay Fort said, "Do it, Tyler. Stop dragging your feet." Yeah, okay. I'm actually going to. Don't stress about it. I had another comment. I don't know what it was going to be about. Now I don't remember. Robert E. Lee's beard has way more of a.
Robert E. Lee is one of the greatest Americans who ever lived,
Spooner.
And that's the way you can immediately tell if someone's worthy of being a friend or not.
I fully agree. I grew up in northeastern Oregon, southeastern Washington, right on the border there. And I had all these history. So the Civil War never meant much to me as far as like taking a side. And I would say my parents had history books and stuff I'd read. We had ones with Lee. I had ones with Grant, and it was, it was all flowery. And Lee was a guy that I admired growing up. It wasn't until you get in later and you're like, oh, no, you're not supposed to like him. Hey, Tyler, back off. So I think I'm at least, as a Northerner, I guess you would say, I just never really had much skin in the game for that one. But I've come to admire the South in a sense there. Spooner, though, look, the reality is I agree with a lot of things he says, but what's the reality on the ground? You can say all these things, but you can't go to court and be a sovereign citizen and expect to them to care about you. So the law still means something to the Supreme Court, to the judges, to your local law enforcement officers. So you have to live in the realm of reality. I don't mind pushing. And then look, the reality is the Supreme Court with Dobbs just gave a lot back, and you may roll back some of the substantive due process. The 14th Amendment stuff is being kind of chipped away in a sense. That's great. I think that's something to look forward to. But in the meantime, that's why the 10th Amendment Center is important, because they're actually doing stuff to chip away at these kind of aspects. So
a lot of people just don't understand that a huge amount of the legislation that we report on, that is on whether it's Second Amendment or right to try, that's a big one, or even something relatively mundane like raw milk, or farm goods. A lot of the bills are written in such a way that just say the federal law, our state and local authorities are not allowed to assist federal law enforcement on this. That's all it says. Like, the state isn't even being brave enough to say, your law doesn't count, we're going to shoot feds. All it's saying is, hey, you local cops, don't write tickets on this anymore. If you do, you're fired. That's literally all the bill says. And you know what? It totally ends there, because the federal police force is like, 90,000 officers? There's not one on every street corner in America. It's physically not possible. That's it. It's such an easy win. And again, there will be people that'll figure out a way to make that a loss.
Our boy Brian McClanahan is part of the Abbeville Institute. And Brian McClanahan, by the way, I don't know if you know, you're probably aware of him. He's a historian that I listen to for legal guidance on the 14th Amendment. That's how good he is. I got his book, How Andrew Jackson Screwed Up America, or Alexander Hamilton Screwed Up America. It's brilliant. Anyway, anything you want to plug before we head out?
New episodes of It's Too Late are Wednesday nights at 9:00 Eastern time. So for all those people that, text me every month or so and say, hey, you guys still doing a show? Yeah, we are. 'Cause it's literally on at the same time on the same day. literally. It has been for 6 years. So Wednesday nights, 9:00 Eastern time is It's Too Late. But obviously, it's on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, blah blah blah. The libraries are there. I'm on all the different platforms are at Alan Mosley TV. So there you go. You just type in at Alan Mosley TV and see what happens.
Yeah, right. I enjoy the show. It's I have trouble getting into it because now, like I said, I've got this Tower Gang thing I'm doing, but I always check it out. I always try to do it. So I encourage everyone. Alan, thank you for coming on the show. You're welcome. You're welcome to come back again. I'm trying to do my Friday night stuff. It's the best time for me. My wife's down watching TV, doing other things. I'm doing Friday nights, and I enjoy kind of the hang that we get here. So 17-3 is the score with Washington. Do you know where the game's being played by any chance? I went and saw
Where is the Pac-12 title game this year?
I went and saw it a few years ago when it was in, because my alma mater, Colorado, was playing, and it was in San Jose.
It's in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Las Vegas for some weird reason.
All right.
Yeah. So there you go.
Anyway, everyone, thank you. What do I got going on? I don't have anything else going on. So with that, no further ado, just check out the show, people. Come back next week. All right. Thanks.
Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back.
And now.
Chick-fil-A is completely overrated. It's not that good. I prefer Zaxby's. I prefer Popeyes.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. And I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
Should I vote for Dick Cheney on the Libertarian Party? Do I have an obligation to vote for Dick Cheney?
I would say so.
Yes.
Did it work for those people?
No, it never does. I mean, these people somehow delude themselves into thinking it might, but it might work for us.
That one dude was like, not a podcast. I can't find it anywhere. They don't have video.
Oh, yeah, Peter Janke. Yeah.
Yeah, I blocked him.
I'll do it. If he unblocks me, I'll...
He'll buy your shirt if you unblock him, Bert.
He's a wigger.
Yeah, nothing cooler than a 49-year-old wigger.
Like,
I just started live streaming. Cut me some slack. I'm pretty high tech for a boomer. But anyways,
boomer.